The October 14, 2021 meeting of the Monroe County Legislative District Revision Commission will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Brock.
Here.
Mr. Baru is sick and is excused. Chairman Carbone.
Here.
Ms. Nicolay.
Here.
Ms. Ortiz.
Here.
I'd like to welcome those in attendance this evening and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As you know, this is the second of 3 public meetings for public input on the Redistricting Commission. The Commission will consider the public comments prior to releasing the proposed changes in the boundaries of the legislative districts. The redistricting plan will be adopted as a local law, and the public will have the opportunity to comment on the proposed plan as part of the official public hearing and the adoption of the local law. I would also like you to know that the law authorizing the new district boundaries is subject to a permissive referendum. I would now like the clerk to proceed with the calling of our public speakers forward to address the commission. Clerk.
You have 2 minutes in which to address the commission, and kindly conclude your remarks when the timer sounds, and when your name is called, just come up to the podium right in front of the commission.
Before we get going, one more question. Are we sure the live stream is still in here? I was just informed it's not being active.
Just double check on it.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
First speaker, please.
Our first speaker is Dave Gerritsen.
Good evening. I'm pleased that we have a live stream this evening. I'm glad that we have a lectern for speakers to use. I'm glad that we have more than 8 people here tonight. I was there last night in Mendon. My message last night was that I want this commission to listen to the people. Listen to the people. It's ironic that I was saying listen to the people and one of the 5 commissioners was absent. And now I'm here again tonight to say listen to the people, and a different commissioner is absent. However, during last night's meeting, Commissioner Brew was offering some thoughts about how the process would go, and I'd expressed some concerns in my remarks that we don't really know what the steps are, what the timeline is. I was concerned about lack of transparency, how difficult it is to learn about these meetings, to participate in these meetings. And he was saying, well, listen, we don't know the exact times, but we have a process. And what we're going to do is we're going to have political operatives draw maps. We're going to have 2 maps. And then we're going to pick one of those maps. And then we're going to go from there. And Commissioner Baroth also had some comments. I'm not going to repeat everything he said, but he was on the critical side regarding the commission and transparency and process. But I ran into him after the meeting and I said, wow, so I assume political operatives drawing maps means that there's a Republican map and a Democratic map. The Democrats, how are you doing on your map? And he said, I don't know. This is the first time I've heard about it. He said, in fact, I can't even get these guys to tell me when the next meeting is. So I decided to listen. I'd read the minutes of your first meeting. I decided to listen to the recording of your first meeting 2 weeks ago. And in that recording, I hear the chair, Mr. Carbone, say, yes, sir, but let me continue, please.
Everybody has 2 minutes. Please be respectful of everybody else in line.
How many more are speaking after me? I think it's 3.
I don't think that matters. You have 2 minutes, those are the rules.
Okay.
Summarize.
I'll summarize. Pardon me?
I think a little bit more time, still have reasonable, given the fact that we'll be here for at least 20, 25 minutes.
Yeah, everybody's got 2 minutes. If you want to take, you have 2 minutes, please summarize.
Thank you. I'll summarize by saying that you, sir, the chair, said in that meeting, Madam Commissioner, has the Board of Elections received the census data? And Commissioner Nicolay said yes, and Commissioner Ortiz said yes. And you said, great, the Board of Elections will draw this map. The Board of Elections will draw this map. In that same meeting, I heard Commissioner Baroth say, what are the steps? What's the procedure? What's our timeline? And there were no answers. I'm here tonight to implore you. Show us the map when you have it. Tell us when you're going to consider the remarks you're hearing at these hearings. When are you going to review a map? When are you going to approve a map? And when the map is ready, show us the map and listen to the people. Oh, come on.
2 minutes. You know the rules.
Show us the map, listen to the people. Bring your map to Charlotte, bring it to Greece, bring it to the 19th Ward, and listen to the people. Listen to the people. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
I'll just comment, it appears that people feel that I could have gone for a minute or two.
Our next speaker is Tim, I believe this is Tim Pryor. Sorry, trying to read the handwriting, that's all.
Good evening. My name is Tim Pryor. I live in Mendon. I mostly just have some questions. I wasn't able to attend the meeting last night in Mendon. Folks who were there kind of came across with the impression that ultimately this would be decided by 3 Republicans in a back room. And so my first question is, what is the process? How are you going to make this decision? And who's going to be there when it's done? Is that going to be done by 3 Republicans in a back room, or is it going to be done in an open process that everybody has an opportunity to witness and understand and buy into when it's done?
I'm sorry, I don't believe this is question and answers. This is 2 minutes for you to make a statement and give us your opinion.
I got 2 minutes.
You have 2 minutes.
That's what's called an open forum? 2 minutes? You're nuts.
I just came from a meeting and they only gave me 2 minutes and I invited guys.
That's bullshit. All right, that's number one. I am absolutely,
If you're going to be some sanity, you're going to have to sit down.
okay. Well, I'm not going to do that again. I won't say anything bad again. However,
We don't use obscenities. Okay?
is that an obscenity? I grew up on a farm, so I don't know. Anyway, question, is this going to be done by 3 Republicans in the back room, or are we going to have a process that other people are able to buy into? Number one. Number two, can you tell me what criterion you're using? What rules will you be following when you decide on what the map's going to look like? Is there a rule to be followed? Or are you guys just going to sit down and say, okay, we're doing this. We like these guys, we want to put them there. What's the rule? There's plenty of guidance out there in the world on how to draw a map.
I think we need to have a little bit more flexibility to get people on this matter. It doesn't cost us anything.
I don't think we should change the rules.
Frankly, I don't
Finish out your 2 minutes, please.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said you can finish out your 2 minutes.
Finish up my 2 minutes. Okay, thanks. Number three is, and to second Dave's question, are we all going to see this? Somebody going to show us this thing and ask for our opinion? Or is it just going to be presented as a fait accompli? And I guess number four is, what's the hurry, by the way? There's no rush to do this. This thing won't take effect until 2022. We have plenty of time to decide on a proper way to do this that everyone can agree on and buy into. And number three, there are people who will be elected in November we know some city members of the county leads, for example, who aren't going to be there after the end of the year. Those folks their replacements ought to have some input, some opportunity to contribute to the final decision here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Our next speaker is Marcia Raven. Pryor. I apologize.
I come here tonight as a homeowner in the South Wedge of the city of Rochester, where at least the last 40 years, we have lacked adequate representation at the county level. I'm here tonight to ask you to fix this problem for us. First, a little history. In 1993, the city of Rochester created Neighbors Building Neighborhoods, and Sector 6 was the 5 neighborhoods surrounding, bound by the river, the inner loop, and 490, and the city district on the south. In that entire neighborhood, the only part of the neighborhood that is in LD 25 is a portion of the South Wedge. The remainder of NBN 6 is all located within LD 24. So what I'm asking for tonight is that you look at this map, you see the one tiny area of NBN 6 that is gerrymandered into the district across the river, and that you consider doing the right thing and moving the line to the river and moving us into LD 24. I submitted comments that talk about this further online, and I hope you'll take the time to read those. They include a map with the area of question highlighted in it. But to give you an idea, this is 24 and 25, and this is what we're talking about. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Joan Roby Davison.
Thank you very much. My name is Joan Roby Davison. I live at 80 Rutledge Drive in the 14621 neighborhood. I did not prepare remarks because I have yet to see any draft maps. There are no proposals that I am aware of that I can actually review and comment upon. I would ask that as whoever is drawing these maps, drafting them, looks at, as the person before me said, look at the established city neighborhoods. And keep those in mind. Don't chop them up. I don't know if you're just looking at county LD maps or if you're also looking at state maps for the Assembly and the Senate, but typically city neighborhoods get used to balance out town districts so that they have equal representation in the Senate and the Assembly. If you are doing that or have input into that, again, respect neighborhood boundaries and keep the neighborhoods together as much as possible. There are natural affinities within neighborhoods, and they are built of smaller communities within the larger context of the city. I can't tell you enough. I've spent my entire career pretty much working in city neighborhoods, and they should be respected. The people who live there should be respected, and we should be respected and have an opportunity to actually see the maps before they're approved by the county legislature. And a timeline for when those draft maps are going to be available would be incredibly helpful. I think that's it. Again, thank you for the opportunity. I just heard about this today. And so I'm sure there would be more people here, but people don't know about it. People don't know these hearings are happening. And so that's a failure on the part of the county legislature or whoever the committee is that is looking to draw these maps. And by the way, my daughter is a mathematician. She lives in West Virginia, unfortunately not here, but she has been working with groups that are using mathematical algorithms to look at how to fairly draw legislative boundaries so that they are not skewed one direction or another, but that they are balanced. And I would suggest that you consider looking at some of those models. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Lisa, is it Reagan?
Yes, spelled like the president.
Lisa Reagan.
Good evening. I'd like to reiterate the comments of the previous two speakers. My name is Lisa Reagan. I'm speaking on behalf of myself as a longtime Rochester South Wedge resident, and for the Reverend Judy Lee Hay as pastor for 40 years in the South Wedge. We're making our comments from both our perspectives as facilitators of the NBN 6 umbrella neighborhood group in the Southeast Rochester. It's very difficult to explain to the residents in those 6 neighborhoods what's going on for them to have meaningful input without more documents and narrative. Neighbors Building Neighborhoods has been an active civic group in the southeast section of Rochester since 1993. There's 6 neighborhoods: Upper Mount Hope, Lilac, Highland Park, Swilberg, Azalea, and the South Wedge. The NBN 6 group meets monthly to discuss any issues affecting the neighborhoods collectively or individually and work together to address those issues affecting neighborhoods. NBN 6 is a tightly knit group with a long-term collaborative partnership with each other. Since '93, this historic sector has organized itself, created community vision statements, identified key neighborhood issues, priorities, and developed action plans to realize their goals. The ultimate goal is to establish and maintain stable, healthy, and diverse action plans for these neighborhoods. 5 of our neighborhoods are in the County Legislative District 24. However, the South Wedge, the largest of these neighborhoods, is split between LD 24 and 25. This makes it extremely difficult to identify common issues to our legislative representatives or have adequate representation as neighborhoods. Further, the Genesee River is a natural and historic neighborhood boundary all the way back to the 1800s. Carving legislative representation in a manner that disregards historic neighborhood boundaries is contrary to the requirement of compact and contiguous district. Disregarding this historic and physical boundary of the Genesee River and the interest in practical alignment of the South Wedge with the remainder of NBN 6, which is crucial for continuity in strategic planning and community engagement with the county, violates the principle of not splitting communities of interest. Please consider moving these to be contiguous in one group. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Catherine Smith.
I just thought I was signing in.
No problem.
Thank you anyways.
Our next speaker is Ashley Teague.
No, I just was signing in as well,
Okay.
and I guess my phone would be out. Yeah.
Same thing. Okay. Our next speaker is Gloria. I don't know last name. Yes.
Good evening. I actually was just signing in, but since I'm on the list to talk, I figured I would. I really came to listen to see what the process is. And it sounds like there might not be a process, at least not known to many of us. The one thing I would want to say is if you're really interested in hearing from the people, then you don't need to be here. You need to be out where the people are. And in the city, that's rec centers, that's community centers, that's churches. So I would hope that you would take that into consideration going forward. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Michael Slade.
Where are we going?
Michael, where are we going?
You're just coming up here, stand next to me.
Could you just state your address for me?
Yes,
please?
Michael Slade, 12 Trailwood Circle, Rochester. It's actually Pittsford 14618. This is my 6th redistricting that I've gone through. Each one makes it more remote for the average citizen. The first one was 1970, which resulted in one man, one vote, nominally better. But people then, prior to that, knew their town supervisor and were represented at the county legislature by their town supervisor. No longer. We had, at that point, 2 daily newspapers, 2 weekly newspapers, all disappearing left and right. And in the actual process of redistricting has made things more remote. I've gone through the last 4 in Pittsford, and Pittsford has always had a population, definitely now, that is equivalent to 1+ legislators. But never, in many years, have we had a full legislative district in Pittsford. Right now, Pittsford is represented, I live in the 10th. It has a little fraction, 1 ED in Brighton. It has half of East Rochester. The other half is in the 13th ED. Why Rochester should be split that way is ridiculous. And then there are 2, most of the northern part of Pittsford is in 10, but the southern part is split between 5 and 13, I believe. Just, it doesn't make any sense. People can't identify who their legislator is. I was driving in East Rochester the other day, and I saw a name on a sign. Name was big, in tiny print was county legislature and the LD that they live in. How does anyone know what LD that they live in? It's vague. There are no regular maps published. I know the board has one. You can get it online, but the average person has no idea what LD they're in. And while it may be in one's political interest to crack, pack, or split the district to make it more in your favor, it doesn't over the long run benefit you. Because the 10th LD used to be, when I ran way back when, it was a majority of not my party. Now, over the past 5 years, it's switched to the point that the opposition has not put up a candidate 2 years ago. So packing and splitting and making it nominally more favorable to your candidate really doesn't work very well. Nowadays, there's plenty of software that one can find free on the internet to make your own districting map. Not that you guys have looked at the ones that I've made in the past couple of redistricts, but it's obvious the contortions that you go through to gerrymander in your favor. It's about time to make it in the public interest. Thank you.
I believe that concludes all of the speakers that have signed up. Is there anybody in the back that wants to speak? I have some written email comments that I'll read after everybody else is done. Is there anybody else that would like to speak that hasn't?
Yeah, I'd like to just, may I approach?
Yes.
Just state your name and your address, please.
Okay. My name is John Godwin. I live at 1484 Chigwell Lane North in Webster. And just very briefly, I won't take even the 2 minutes that I'm being offered to speak, but look, I realize there's a lot of rancor these days. I don't come up here to be rancorous. I just want to say that as I look and I listen all around me, there's a common theme running through. And I don't care which party it is. That's not important to me. What's important to me is free and fair redistricting, free and fair elections. That's all we're really looking at. no matter what you come up with, as people have said here before, we want to know. We want to participate. I think that's what a democracy is about. You want your people to participate. Okay, we'll participate, but we have to know what we're participating in. And so if I can say one thing on a theme tonight, transparency. Please give it to us. Let us help you. Let us be a part of that. Thank you very much.
We got some emails that people sent in. We got some emails that people sent in that the clerk's going to read.
Our first email submission was from Ken McDonald. I'm writing this because I believe it is vital that we use this opportunity to put an end to partisan gerrymandering. Today, many of our elections are decided in the primary. The general public never gets the opportunity to choose their representatives. They won't even be in the ballot in November because nobody is going to waste their efforts challenging an unbeatable opponent. That's not democracy. For every district that is drawn so that will always be firmly controlled by one party or the other, you put another district at risk. You don't have district maps today, or we don't have district maps today. We have battle lines. That is how we create division in our society and stifle accountability. Thank you, Ken McDonald. Our next submission was from Marilyn Parchas. I am the treasurer of North Winton Village Neighborhood Association. Our North Winton neighborhood needs to stay as it is pertaining to redistricting. We at North Winton Village Association have worked for 40 years maintaining a safe and beautiful, walkable, urban North Winton Village neighborhood. I am shocked that the Monroe County Legislature map wants to change our North Winton Village neighborhood's character. This redistricting will destroy other neighborhoods as well that have maintained their identity for years. Marilyn Parchas. The submission is from Joan Nanina. Members of the legislature, this note is to demand your efforts to ensure accurate representation in our area and no gerrymandering. Communities have been disrupted and there is no valid reason for districts to be so cut up other than to manipulate vote outcomes. Districts should be drawn evenly and fairly. We are watching your efforts and hold you accountable for all results. Thank you, Joanne Nanina. This submission is from Michael Sadao. This is a scam. The way there is little or no public notification, having meetings in obscure, far-flung locations and times, and apparent inability to be truthful. If you're not hiding some shady backroom process, why the big secret? Why not be open and truthful with all your constituents, not just your Republican base? I do not anticipate your response any more than I would expect you to do the right thing. Michael Sadao. The submission is from Jean Proctor. Please conduct an additional hearing where citizens can easily attend and park, perhaps a city school. It is so difficult to attend meetings at the county legislature. This submission is from Bruce Mellon. Commission members, to clarify Upper Mount Hope Neighborhood Association's county redistricting desires. The Upper Mount Hope Neighborhood Association has many challenges and problems in common with the historic Sector 6 neighborhoods. We do talk and work together. It is our desire that even small pieces of these east of river neighborhoods not be split into separate LDs, nor effectively lose their voice, nor lose the feeling of continuity or commonality of neighborhoods. Unrelated to LD lines drawn, the Upper Mount Hope Neighborhood Association will continue to work directly as needed with all neighborhoods within the city on common issues of concern. Respectfully, Bruce Mellon. Our next submission was Bess Watts. Dear Redistricting Commission or Committee members, in the interest of fairness, freedom, and transparency, it is critical that the public see the redistricting maps before they are approved. The public has a right to know who the Republican operatives are who are currently reviewing the maps. Rushing this process through is unfair to the taxpayers who have to live with the consequences for the next 10 years. There is no good reason why this process can't be extended until after the elections. This threatens the basic premise of fair and equal voting. Thank you, Bess Watts. Our next submission was John Jarabek. I insist that the upcoming redistricting process in Monroe County be done in a fair and equitable manner. Do not just force through a partisan map that gerrymanders districts and splits up neighborhoods, towns, and cities in ways that disenfranchise voters. Voters from all parties should have a voice in the redistricting process. John Jarabek. Next submission is Betty Jarabek. I insist that the upcoming redistricting process in Monroe County be done in a fair and equitable manner. Do not just force through a partisan map that gerrymanders districts and splits up neighborhoods, towns, and cities in ways that disenfranchise voters. Voters from all parties should have a voice in the redistricting process. Betty Jarabek. Our next submission was Victoria Jacobs. This has to stop. If gerrymandering is the only way they can be in power, then shame on them. Rather than working to support their communities, their time is spent trying to ensure their opponents' votes are suppressed. Skewing the way voters are represented is disgusting. Doing it without input from the public is a travesty. We, all the voters, have a right to be heard. If they can't win by a majority of votes, they do not need to be elected. Regards, Victoria Jacobs. Our next submission is Melissa Johnson. Members of the legislature, this note is to implore you to ensure accurate representation in our area and no gerrymandering. Communities have been disrupted, and there is no valid reason for districts to be so cut up. Districts should be drawn evenly and fairly. Thank you, Melissa Johnson. Our next submission is Rebecca Hazard. I insist that the upcoming redistricting process in Monroe County be done in a fair and equitable manner. Do not just force through a partisan map that gerrymanders districts and splits up neighborhoods, towns, and cities in ways that disenfranchise voters. Voters from all parties should have a voice in the redistricting process. Rebecca Hazard. This submission is from Cynthia Woolbright. To our county legislature. As a member of our county, I am demanding your efforts to ensure accurate representation in our area without any gerrymandering. The idea of anything less than these efforts is not what you are elected to do. Communities have been disrupted and there is no valid reason for districts to be so cut up, other than to manipulate vote outcomes. Districts should be drawn evenly and fairly. We are watching your efforts and will hold you accountable for all results. The idea of anything less than such efforts is a disgrace to our county, people, and country. I also urge you to be far more transparent about your sessions so that our county communities can participate in the democratic process, something I learned in my high school civics class. Among others, I also want to be a fully informed voter, and keeping important issues from us is less than any elected official should adhere. Transparency, openness, and truth are bedrocks of our community or our country. I urge you to remember that members of the county legislature work for the public. Thank you, Cynthia Woolbury. This submission was from Denise Donato. I insist that the upcoming redistricting process in Monroe County be done in a fair and equitable manner. Do not just force through a partisan map that gerrymanders districts and splits up neighborhoods, towns, and cities in ways that disenfranchise voters. Voters from all parties should have a voice in the redistricting process. Denise Donato. from Marshall Reaver. And she attached her comments. But I'll read it anyway. My name is Marshall Reaver. I live at 64 Hickory Street in the South Wedge neighborhood of the city. For at least 40 years, much of the South Wedge has lacked adequate representation at the county level. I'm here tonight to ask you to fix this problem for us. First, a little history. In 1993, the city of Rochester divided neighborhoods into sectors under their Neighbors Building Neighborhoods initiative. These sectors were compact and contiguous neighborhoods of common interest. Sector 6, commonly known as NBN6, includes 5 established neighborhood associations and 2 block clubs. NBN6 boundaries are the Genesee River, I-490, and the southern border of the city. NBN6 actively engages with government leaders at all levels who represent most, but not all, of the neighborhoods within the area. The other sector relevant to my comments is the Southwest Common Council, a similar area west of the Genesee River. Monroe County separates NBN6 between 2 legislative districts. LD24 represents most of NBN6 and a portion of Brighton, a suburb that is not an area of common interest with NBN6. The LD24 legislator attends NBN6 meetings whenever there is a need for county representation. LD25 represents the Southwest Common Council portion of the South Wedge. We on the east side of the river have not met our representative at the county level during our NBN6 meetings. Essentially, the LD24 representative is already our de facto representative. 2 guiding principles of redistricting are moving areas of common interest into the same LD and creating districts that are compact, allowing a part of the South Wedge to remain in LD25 does not follow these guiding principles. My request tonight is simple: redraw LD24 and LD25 to move the entirety of the South Wedge into LD24, reunite us with our neighbors in the South Wedge and the remainder of NBN6. I've submitted my comments through your email. Thank you for your time, which also includes a map that I believe she was showing up front. So that will be in your.
Good morning. Yeah, I'm just talking.
Our next submission was from Jeremy Scher. On behalf of Indivisible Rochester, I thank the Commission for its attention to this statement and ask for it to be read into the record at tonight's meeting. Redistricting allows politicians to choose their voters. If abused, redistricting silences voters, supports minority rule, and undermines democracy. As a result, it is critical to impose redistricting in a nonpartisan and transparent fashion that promotes the core constitutional principle of one person, one vote. To achieve transparency, the Commission must answer at least the following questions. 1. Who specifically is drawing each district map that the Commission is considering? 2. What methodologies and practices are the map drawers using? 3. How many maps is the Commission considering? 4. When will the public see proposed maps? 5. What is the Commission doing to ensure bipartisanship in the drawing of maps? 6. What is the Commission doing to ensure that the maps incorporate meaningful public comment? 7. What is the Commission doing to ensure that the maps do not privilege some voters at the expense of others based on political affiliation or race? 8. What is the Commission doing to ensure that the maps accurately reflect Monroe County's voter registration demographics? 9. What records will the Commission keep of its votes and deliberations, and how will it make those records available to the public? A new map will affect the representation of approximately 485,000 registered voters out of 741,000 residents. The legislators elected under a new map will manage more than $1 billion in county funds each year. A commission facing the vital work of drawing this map cannot operate in secrecy. Indivisible Rochester demands that the commission premise its vital work on the goal of supporting free and fair elections, not rigging the map to support one party over another. It must show good faith by disclosing its process to the public. Answering the questions in the statement is a start. Thank you for your time, Jeremy Shearer. Our last submission was from Rosemary Shaw. Respected friends, it is time again to cut this county up into 29 districts to provide the best representation possible in the county legislature. And I realize your mandate is difficult with the restrictions you must use. In my 30 years of involvement, I have seen some pretty strange things in this districting process. Being originally from the far west side, I have seen whole towns split right down the middle. This time, let's try for a bit of continuity. A town, a region, a specific population to represent only to one legislator. I moved to Charlotte in 2016, and when working for candidates from 2017 on, I was struck by the split in coverage in this neighborhood. LD 26 represents most of Charlotte, basically Stutson Street moving south and Maplewood, but it also encompasses parts of Greece and Gates. In the meantime, LD 7, which resides mainly in Greece, takes in the part of Charlotte north of Stutson that is mostly Beach Ave and its surrounding streets. If there's any neighborhood in this city that resounds of coalition, it is Charlotte. We have proven more than once that we will stand together. And incidentally, the legislator for LD 7 has provided very little to the Charlotte community in his representation, understanding his focus is the Greece constituency. I have no idea of the numbers you need to meet, but my idea might be to take the Greece districts from LD 26 and swap them with the Charlotte districts currently in LD 7. Hopefully an even swap. And let me say this, I am not immune to the political pressure you will encounter with this. Been there, done that, so to speak. Please do what you can to provide equitable representation for every person in this county. With my best regards, Rosemary Shaw. That was the last email submission.
Okay, this concludes the public hearing. I'd like to thank everyone for their participation in the redistricting process. On behalf of the members of the commission this evening, the next meeting for public input is scheduled for tomorrow, Friday, October 15, 2021, at the Hamlin Town Hall located at 1658 Lake Road, Hamlin, New York, at 7 p.m. Thank you. Hopefully we'll see you all tomorrow night.
Thank you all for coming. Much appreciated. I know it's a difficult job.